Welcome to Tokyo Game Life, a Tokyo-based video game podcast focusing on Nintendo and gaming culture in Japan's capital. Your host Mono here to bring you a slice of gaming life from Tokyo. Today's feature is on the upcoming Video Game Prom event, a huge party in Tokyo where game devs and game fans can party, play games, and even become the prom king or queen. Prom host Scott Popular and returning guest Kyle, aka Mr. Knives, joins as we chat about giving indie devs in Japan a chance to network and party, how they put off such a big event, and the big upcoming Tokyo Game Show. In the games, I took a look at Hollow Knight Silksong and the new Donkey Kong Bananza DLC. Let's start with the feature on Video Game Prom with Scott Popular and Mr. Knives. Today's feature is about the upcoming Video Game Prom event happening right here in Tokyo. Joining me to chat all about it is not one, but two special guests. So guests, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Mr. Knives, MRK, or Kyle, and I'm one of the people who helps run Video Game Prom.
Hello everyone, my name is Scott Popular, and I'm one of the other people who help run Video Game Prom and other great events in Atlanta, Tokyo, and hopefully Honolulu and somewhere near you very soon.
Thank you so much for joining me. So yeah, having two guests is a bit of a rarity, so I'm really excited about this episode. But give us the pitch. What is Video Game Prom?
Scott, do you want to take it away? You're really
good
at
why
this.
Not? Video Game Prom is the one safe place where all dorks can come and nerd completely the F out. We made this for people who didn't really get accepted into Tokyo Game Show. Not putting any slight there, but it's hard to get in. And I couldn't get my game in, so I was like, hey man, how about we just make an event that we can show our games or other people's games who didn't make it into Tokyo Game Show. And me and Mark were like, that's a cool idea, but let's take it up one more notch. Let's have prom. Because I know that a lot of people in Japan didn't have an opportunity to go to prom because of geological lottery. You live in Japan and prom is not a part of your system. But I know a lot of people, a lot of them being female people who are in Tokyo or in the game industry who would love to have a chance to go to prom. And I was like, man, it'd be great to have a gaming event where everybody got dressed up and played video games and had drinks responsibly. That responsibly part rarely ever happens, but you get the gist. And it was just a wild, wacky idea. We took pictures and it just kind of snowballed into something great. And we're hoping that this year is great as well. And then hopefully the future looks fabulous as well.
Yeah. One of the things that I noticed is that people have told me that, like, I work in games or I've been a part of this industry, but, unfortunately, I haven't really been invited to any events or parties, and I don't know why. And that was also another reason for putting this event together. There's a lot of hardworking people in this industry that, regardless of your position, we feel deserve the space and the opportunity to celebrate with other like-minded people. And, that's what particularly drew me to the project, and that's what we're trying to push to this day.
And also to add on to that, people who don't work in the game industry are more than welcome to come. Yeah, I was having doing a lot of liaison work for like the music industry and film industry. I had friends and they were like, hey, what is this video game prom thing? Do I have to play video games to come to prom? Absolutely not. Can I just come to the prom to play video games? Of course you can. Like, we're not going to discriminate, man. As long as you get through that door, you're in the party. Just please come dressed, because we're going to take pictures. Make your mom, parent, plant, animal, mineral, parental figure proud. Give them something that they can put on their refrigerator.
I like the focus of, okay, this is giving an opportunity to developers who can't get into Tokyo Game Show, because since we all live in Japan and I'm not a game developer, but I go to many of these game shows and I talk to many developers. There is, I don't want to say a tier of indie developer, but it is harder to get into these events than you would think. Like Tokyo Game Show, they're not just letting anybody in. And I have a friend who is an indie game developer in Japan, and he said like, oh, I couldn't get into Bit Summit. And I'm thinking, isn't that for indie game developers in Japan? So it definitely takes a lot more, I don't want to say effort. There isn't a whole lot of opportunities for people who are really starting out in the indie game sphere to network or to even meet each other. It's good that Video Game Prom is really focusing on this. And yeah, I want to talk about the prom theme. That's a very interesting focus. So are a lot of Japanese people confused about, oh, what is the prom? Or is everyone just okay with it?
The idea of prom is something that's not new at all. I think every person on this planet knows, like, they've seen Sweet 16. or they've seen like a number of these prom movies, not even in Western media like 90210 and stuff like that. So they know exactly what prom is. They just never had a chance to experience it. So we're giving them an opportunity to experience prom with a little bit of a video game twist. And just to be honest, as an American, when I went to prom, I think I had a great time, but it would have been leagues better if there would have been like Smash 64 or Third Strike or Tecmo Bowl in the corner. I would have stayed longer. I definitely would have stayed longer.
Yeah, when we designed this, it's the idealized cinematic version of prom. It's the best, most exciting, most vivid aspects of it presented in a party format with video games. And what we've noticed is, regardless of where everybody's from, there seems to be a lot of positive sentiment about it. Even people who really aren't quite familiar with the prom format or what it's for have told me just any opportunity to get together to dress up and play games and network with other people is something that's unique and different from a lot of other events. We're really proud of creating something like that and creating that space.
And talking about the theme, this theme this year is Y2K. We've already had some Y2K bugs with one of our sites, but we've championed through that. But I feel like this theme is not only appropriate, it's actually running its course. I personally, and I'm just going to admit it here first on this show, I'm having trouble trying to figure out what's my costume going to look like or how I'm going to dress up. But it's something that hopefully I can triumph with. But let me pose a question to you, Mono. If you come to Video Game Prom Y2K theme, what are you thinking about? How are you coming dressed?
Well, if you want to do Y2K theme, I know the fashion of very late 90s and early 2000s is, I would say, not controversial, but maybe just bad, straight up bad. I don't want to come out there looking like Britney Spears circa 1999 or something like that, or Backstreet Boys circa 1999. Maybe I might rep some gaming hardware on my clothing, have it like a Neo Geo Pocket or something, something
nice.
like very like 1999 focused.
Great answer. I think Zach from True Eye Labs, he had a black suit, but once you got really close to it, you saw that he had little Tetris patterns embroidered into the suit. So I was just like, okay, so that's a perfect merger. So like for people who are at the crossroads, they're like, well, what should I dress up like? Just come fresh. And yes, cosplay is viable. We still gonna let you in. Okay. You're definitely getting in. So come as Luigi, come as Peach, come as Bowser, come as Ryu, Ken, knock it out, man. Just come and have fun.
There are, of course, a lot of gaming dev meetups all over Japan. For example, in Tokyo, there's the Tokyo Indies event where devs can come and share their experiences. And yeah, this idea is quite similar, but has a very party atmosphere. When did you understand that, we should start having a party instead of just a general hangout meetup style event?
I think from what I've noticed is that it's just exactly that. There's a lot of events that are just sort of mixers and hangout events and things like that. And, from my perspective, I felt like there was really no need to sort of just copy what they've already mastered and done well and just do another version of that. It's always great to have spaces to hang out and do that, but there's so many who do it and do it well. We wanted to do something different, and we wanted to focus it a little bit more on the party aspect, being that it's so close to Tokyo Game Show this year. We feel that by putting it so close to Tokyo Game Show, it's sort of like a little celebration of the event as well. It's a unique opportunity where people are flying in to go to TGS who normally aren't here the rest of the year in Tokyo. And so just everything sort of coalesced into that. And we felt that having a event where you could very well beat each other and network, but just making it a little more laid back and making it a little bit more party themed pushes that a little bit more to the celebration aspect of it. And we felt that's what makes it stand out a bit more than other events as well.
Yeah. And then adding the whole photo booth aspect to things, it's just like, hey, come in, take a picture. You were here. You definitely were here. We had, whether you like it or not, you're in this digital yearbook. Okay. It is online and we took your picture and you had fun. And hopefully you took multiple pictures. Like the whole thing is just like video games in general. We want you to have fun. You can play the games whenever or if they come out or if they don't come out. But we want to focus more so on the people at the event. Let's talk a little bit about you. What do you like and things like that. And we're always open to new ideas and trying to make our event better. I would love for us to focus a little bit more on the games, but right now, man, partying is fun. And there's so many other events that do that much better than we do. But right now, we're just going to focus on getting this party right.
Are most of the attendees at the event indie devs in Japan, or do a lot of other overseas dev also join since it's so close to TGS?
I'd say it's a good mix, but I'd say like quite a few people from overseas are at these events, unless I'm miscalculating.
Yeah, I would say, just looking at the pictures, it's a good 50-50. And we're having a spike of just Japanese people attending the event because they're just like, yo, I saw those pictures. I want to, like, for instance, like my hairdresser came and I was super surprised when she showed up. I was like, you know, we playing video games in here. She was like, yes, but look at me. And I was like, I get it. No problem. Assignment, you got it. Check the box. She's home run. She did everything. So, but having a place where those people can interact with each other is purely inspirational, because like you can find somebody who like has absolutely nothing to do with the video game industry, but they're there and take the time to talk to that person, and you might find some kind of new inspiration, or you might find somebody who can help you out with another problem, or vice versa. Or the biggest rainbow is if there's some money. If let's just say that you walk in there and you find somebody who's like, oh, you know what? Let me help you out with this event. Let me fund this event.
We've noticed as well, like, you know, video games have sort of grown past their circle of people who play them, and they're very much on a public facing level where it's at this point it's not uncommon for anybody to play a game in some way or some extent. So it's always nice to bring these people together. You know, like I know a few have probably, I think I've told Scott, they're like, well, I like video games, but I'm in a different area of entertainment, but it doesn't really, you know, it doesn't really matter. That's still enough to be here and to mingle with everybody and to talk. And we've had some interesting collaborations and interesting partnerships develop because of those people from outside video games collaborate with people who work in video games.
This is the third year for Video Game Prom. So what have been the big takeaways from past events that inspired this year's prom?
Correction, this is the fourth year. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yes, the fourth
one,
time.
The first two were at Circus. The third one was at Robin's Club in Omotesando. And this year will be at Haven.
Yeah, the biggest takeaway I think that we've noticed over each one is that every year it grows a little bit more. Every year, we always see a good balance of people who have been there since the beginning, but always a few new people as well. Every year, we notice a very general positive reception to the event. And one of the things that I'm really happy to take away from it is people tell me that there's no asterisk to being there. There's no pretension. There's no, I have to know this person or know this thing or be a part of this to be there. I was just able to come and be myself and talk to people who I never might have had the opportunity to talk to before on a very public and open level. And so that's what we've noticed over here, like the growth we've noticed, and we've noticed just the positive reception of just people able to just be themselves and just be very, very happy and be very open in that space.
Yeah. Being open in the space also encourages the one film aspect that I want to make sure that we get more of this year is just seeing people dance, because it's a big misfact that, you know, nerds can't dance or something. But to see them start moving and just like, you know, interact with each other, it's like, oh, this can work. This can work. And teaching Japanese people how to slow dance is just a trophy in itself. So we're winning there. We're definitely winning.
What's the thing about past events that has surprised you the most?
I can say that just the number of people that showed up. And the one thing that we are making a small change this year, this one's going to be more DJ centric. We're doing this in Haven. And Haven is a new club in Nakameguro and has this elaborate 360 gigantic orb projector in the ceiling. So it looks really, really sci-fi-ish. As you walk in the entrance, if you're a fan of Final Fantasy VII, you can see where they got inspiration from Midgar. Like the whole, so when you walk through, it's like, oh, this looks like Midgar, Final Fantasy VII. Okay, I get why you guys put it here. But just, you know, being able to go to different venues in Tokyo and just getting a different look. I won't say that Video Game Prom is perfect yet, but we're definitely working towards it.
I'm going to have to kind of just jump off of what Scott said as well. It's just the location is fantastic. The people are always very enthusiastic when they show up there. And just, you know, the atmosphere is just very, very alive and very positive. It's
always nice when people, you know, email us and talk to us. It's like, hey, when is Video Game Prom? Because I'm packing an outfit just for this. Like they're coming from across the world just to come to our prom.
Yeah, and that's the thing. My first year of helping out with it, because they have already been doing it for a bit. Somebody came from overseas and he said, "Oh, I brought a tuxedo with me," and I thought he was like joking, but no, he was very, very serious. And I think deep down inside, people like the opportunity to dress up and show off. And I think, unfortunately, in this industry, we don't really have a lot of opportunities to do that. So having a place to do that and to look nice, and always every year blows me away, like how many people dress up and how good everybody looks. Like it just, like I'm used to seeing them just dressed very casually or maybe not seeing them at all. They said I've been behind the screen, like working on my game for like 7 months out of the year, and then to see them show up dressed to the absolute nines, it's you couldn't write a better script than that.
The otakus clean up very nice. We do.
Very nice.
Very nice.
So you said this year's event has a big focus on the DJs. Who are the DJs and how did you find them?
So that's a secret. The only one I can tell you, because this one is actually on the site, is DJ Yan. So he's definitely on board. It might be him the whole night. It might be, I know usually in the past, Ninjas in Tokyo have performed, but we don't know yet. We got to wait and see. But guaranteed, because you can check the website right now, DJ Yan is definitely on the decks. He's a DJ out of Kyoto. He's one of Mark's good buddies, and he's going to rock us out. He's going to make sure that people's feet are grooving at the right time and incite just a wee bit of love, just a wee bit.
Love's very important.
There's also a prom queen crowning. Who have been some past prom queens, and how is this determined?
Well, Scott, you can feel
okay, we're going to do this. He's going to go all the way in. Okay, so let's see if I can name all the prom kings and all the prom queens. Nope, can't do that. That's not going to happen. The only thing I can say is that Z-Gun and Zora won last year. The year before that, I think we had a 4-way tie. That was a tie Star between Bitsy, Abby, Javon, and I'm missing one more.
For prom, traditionally what we do, and we're thinking about maybe switching it up this year, but traditionally what we've done is ask people to submit, a video to say like why you deserve to be prom king or prom queen. And we expected it to be very simple, very straightforward. But, to our surprise, like some of the answers and some of the videos that we received in the past have been very elaborate. I think we were talking about earlier this week, Scott, somebody did a video, and I think she went around her entire office and got
thank
her
you
whole...
for saying that. It was Katie.
Yeah, her whole team to give like a testimony to say like, oh, why should I be queen this year and stuff. And, it's just that effort that always surprises us and always makes us happy. It's very casual. It's very just for the sake of fun and tradition, but it does get a bit competitive at times. But, that's gaming in general. There's always a little competition involved, I suppose. So...
Are you guys eligible or are you disqualified since you guys are running the event?
Disqualified.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Give some other people a chance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But just for hierarchy, me and Mark are co-class presidents, and Kyle is vice president. And then we have a director of art. Her name is Melody, who hosts us a hospitality.
Yeah. We've actually grown our team this year to 2 other people. And it's just because our needs and everything are expanding and growing. So we have somebody dedicated to art. We have somebody dedicated to social media and the messaging and the verbiage behind there. They're all going to be there this year. One of them is traveling from the States to be here, which really surprised us. And she's like, yeah, no, I'll be there. So the team is growing because our needs are growing. But that's a good problem to have, I think.
I'm curious about the logistics in creating an event like this, especially considering it is such a big event space. Do you just have to call the venue and say, hey, I want this for this time, or what are some other unforeseen things you have to plan for?
So, a little secret sauce. Might as well go ahead and give it to you. It's all free. You want to basically maintain relationships. So, for the past year, I've been running events for Game Maker UK under the moniker Game Maker Japan. And I chose that venue, last year around November. And I just kept doing events there. And then, finally, when we got to mid-spring, I was like, hey guys, there's a chance that I'm going to change one of the Game Maker events slots into Video Game Prom. And they were like, well, we heard what you said, but what is Video Game Prom? And I was like, funny you should ask. Good thing is I got a video. They watched the video and they were like, yeah, just do that. The proof is in the pudding. So whenever you make an event or anything, trust me, we can sit here and talk about this for days. I can send you 8 different decks, but what really puts the nail in the coffin is if I send you an actual video of what we've done in the past. And so now it's like, okay, there's no question. They can do it. Now we just got to go through the logistics of it.
Yeah, to sort of, and again, to jump off what Scott said, a majority of how everything came together from venue to collaborations to just the setup is through building relationships. Everybody who is helping us or who has been a part to make this event come together has always been from somebody who has faith in this event and faith in us and faith in the messaging and what we do for Video Game Prom. And so that slow burn cultivation of relationships has helped us build some tremendous things through prom. And as we continue to get new people on board and new people willing to help and willing to see the vision of what this is, it's only gotten better as time has gone on.
As you said before, it is a big showcase for indie game developers. So what games are going to be on display and playable at this year's prom?
So right now we're still working on that. We're trying to get some more people in, but probably Ninja Man and the Six Gold Chains, a new version of that should be there. We're also working on, well, this is like internally, but we're working on a Video Game Prom card matching game. Pretty simple, touchscreen. So basically, I took all the emoji art from another game that we made and I approached Game Maker and I said, hey, this is going to be, Game Maker's going to be there. How about we just make a game using Game Maker? And so I called up Tombo, who just recently released a game on Steam. It's called Carpoon. He uses Game Maker, and he actually came to one of the Game Maker Japan events earlier this year, and he was like, hey, I make games in Game Maker. And I was like, cool. Do you think we could collaborate real quick and make a very simple puzzle game? And lo and behold, that game should be done by the time you guys are listening to this right now. And hopefully we will also be showing Carpoon as well. And maybe a couple more. So you got to come and see.
Before we wrap up, Tokyo Game Show is coming up, so let's talk about that a little bit. Do you have any plans for the actual show, or is there anything you guys are looking forward to?
For me, for Tokyo Game Show, it's always business-related stuff. So unfortunately, I guess the curse of working in the industry is that you get invited to showcases and stuff, but you don't have a lot of time to actually check them out because you have to do other stuff there. But I guess the things I always look forward to at TGS each year is just the booth design. I feel like there's a lot of showcases around the world, but like TGS is like one of the last, and I could be wrong, but just in my opinion, I think TGS is one of the last mainstays where like these big, gigantic booths and big flashy things are still there. And I guess you could argue, day in, day out, whether a big booth like that actually helps or benefits. But to me, it always just harkens back to the days of like Golden Age E3. And I feel like it's like one of the last remaining things there. So I'm always looking forward to seeing that. Sega always has an amazing booth every year. Maybe not last year, but the year before then, I think Square Enix had an amazing booth there as well. And just always the surprises that show up as well. There's always one or two games that show up that I'm able to kind of get my hands on and play, and I'm always excited about it. Last year, I think, was like Phantom Blade Zero. The Metal Gear Delta booth is really cool this year, so I always look forward to seeing that.
Wow, I never really thought of it that way, but now I'm definitely going to pay more attention to like booth design and things that are interesting like that, because to be honest, usually I'm there just to to me, Tokyo Game Show is kind of like a family reunion. Like it's a lot of people from overseas I don't get to see, but when they come to Tokyo, it's like, oh guys, you guys are in my backyard. Let's go do this. Let's go do that. Tell me about what project you're working on. How can we collaborate? So it's a big family reunion and just checking up on people. And game-wise, I'm looking extremely forward to playing Marvel Dokkan. And hopefully, because they keep changing the name of this game, I think it's 2KXO, whatever. Like, it's another fighting game. So for me, I'm always FGC. So I love to get my hands on new FGC games and a bunch of people who don't know how to play, so I can just try to destroy them as soon as possible.
Ego boost.
Yeah, so FGC to the core here. But yeah, man, just the only gripe about Tokyo Game Show is like, man, I wish it was in Tokyo.
Yeah. Do you think that maybe one day you can host Video Game Prom at Makuhari Messe?
That would be dreamy. That would be a very dreamy beast, because like if that did happen, that would basically make our responsibilities like 100-fold.
If you would have asked me when I first came on, I probably would have told you no, but every year it grows bigger and grows better. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe somehow, some way, one day in the future it expands like that. And if it does, we like to think we're up to the challenge. We like to think, and because of our belief in this event and, everyone else who believes in it and helps us out as well, we like to think we're up to the challenge, but, one day at a time, I guess, right?
Yeah. And, going back, also giving people tours of Japan and Tokyo Game Show, because we have a lot of people coming in who they'll either call us or they come to Video Game Prom first. And then they're like, hey, I was at Video Game Prom last night and I see that you're at Tokyo Game Show. Can you walk me through this? Because I came to prom, but I had no idea about Tokyo Game Show. So that's been extremely refreshing to like give people like kind of a small guided tour of Tokyo Game Show from Video Game Prom.
We've had that as well, and then like confusion. People are like, oh yeah, I'm going to Tokyo Game Show. They're like, it's in this place called Chiba. Is that Tokyo? We're like, well, no, that's like we have to give you the lore now. That's not actually Tokyo.
Yeah.
You know?
Why are we passing Disneyland?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like having the California Game Show in Oregon, for example.
Yeah. Pretty much. I think the worst is when people from out of town, they fly into Tokyo Game Show and they said, oh, I'm staying, near the center. And the problem is that like a lot of the other events that happen or, people splinter off in the groups and do their own thing, they happen in Tokyo. So people are like, well, let me just hop on the train really quick. We did this one year. We did an impromptu karaoke with people from prom. And then this guy's like, yeah, let me just hop on the train really quick and I'll get to you. And we're like, well, where are you at? He goes, I'm by the center. We're like, dude, that's going to be like 45 minutes.
There's nothing really quick about that at all. But
yeah.
You go, camper.
Yeah. And I felt bad, but it's just like the curse of being in Chiba and being called Tokyo. I don't know.
So that was a look at this year's Video Game Prom. Mr. Knives and Scott, where can people learn more about the event and where can people find you?
You can find all the information right now. Tickets should still be on sale at www.videogameprom.com. And you can find me on every piece of social media at Scott Popular, one word.
You can find me on Instagram. I'm not under Mr. Knives on there. I'm using my government name. So you can find me as KJ Hovanik, or you can find me on Blue Sky as well. And under there, I am MRK. Mr. Knives on there. So, and like Scott said, as the time of this goes out, like tickets should still be on sale. They're probably going fast at this point in time. So if you do want to go, please lock that in right now. But yeah, that's where you can find us. And that's where you can talk to us and tell us how much you love the event, or I want to come to the event, or yell at us because tickets sold out, whatever. We're there. So
whatever you do, just come dressed.
Yes, please come. That is the one thing we have to stress. Please come dressed.
Yes, Tokyo Video Game Prom, Wednesday, September 24th. So if you're listening to this podcast day 1 or day 2 or even day 3, you still have some time to get some tickets. So check it out. All the links will be in the podcast description. So listeners, definitely worth your time. So Scott Popular and Mr. Knives, once again, thank you so much for joining me.
Awesome, man.
Thank you so much
for having us, man.
Absolutely.
Hope to be back
pleasure
soon.
To be here.
How about that?
Let's kick off the game section by looking at a rare non-Japanese game featured on the podcast, Hollow Knight Silksong from Australia's Team Cherry. While it isn't a Japanese game, it is in a very Japanese genre, Metroidvania. Maybe the worst name for a genre of anything ever. I often hear people say search action because the genre is often called tansaku action in Japanese, but I think that translates closer to exploration action, which I guess makes sense. How about backtracking platformer? Backformer. We will come up with a good name one day. This is perhaps the most hotly anticipated indie game of all time, with it being announced all the way back in 2019. But even before that, it was originally just a stretch goal on Kickstarter for the original Hollow Knight way back in the early 2010s. Sadly, they did not fulfill their promise of a Wii U version, but after years of waiting and years of silence, the follow-up to perhaps the best-selling Metroidvania of all time is finally here. And my history with the series, I did pick up Hollow Knight on Switch in 2018. That's really when the game broke out big time, and although it was popular on Steam, it was one of the many early examples of an indie game hitting it big on the Switch. I tried it, but I dropped it after a few hours. I could just not parse its strange map system, and I thought the platforming for the main character was a bit too heavy, and yeah, it was too hard. I didn't think it was bad, but I just thought it was not for me. Silksong, though, I'm enjoying it much, much more. I kind of just bought it because it was in the zeitgeist. I mean, the most highly anticipated indie game of all time, and only $20 with a special Switch 2 edition of the game. I had to try it. Even if I just played it for 3 hours and dropped it, I at least had to see what everyone was talking about. And shockingly, I'm about 20 hours into the game, something I would not have imagined if you told me this a month ago. Me dropping it after 2 hours because I couldn't beat some boss and I didn't know where to go, that seemed far more likely, but
Silksong has its hooks into me, and I can't fully explain why, but I'll do my best. Is it simply a case of, I get it now? Or have my gaming skills improved drastically since 2018? I would honestly say they've probably gotten worse, but there are a few small things in Silksong that make me keep playing as opposed to Hollow Knight. Honestly, I think the biggest thing is the mantling. Instead of just hitting the edge of a platform and falling to your death, you can now ledge grab and pull yourself up. And this isn't a crutch either. A lot of the platforming challenges are focused on this ability. Hornet, the character you control, she feels like how you want her to control. However, the little guy in Hollow Knight, he felt much more weighty and heavy. Ironically, a lot of the things that frustrated me about the first game, like the bizarre map system and the difficulty, are still very much present in Silksong, but I think controlling a much more agile character greatly benefits the game and makes the platforming and boss fights incredibly exciting while also maintaining a high level of difficulty. Again, you play as Hornet, who was a character in the previous game, and you're brought to the land of Farloom after being kidnapped by some mysterious bugs. You get free, and instead of just escaping like I would have done, Hornet embarks on a quest to figure out why she was kidnapped. The premise of Hollow Knight is essentially Dark Souls meets Metroidvania, plus bugs. And the setting, dialogue, and lore is very Dark Souls-esque. But unlike those games, there is quite a bit of humor, and the fact that Hornet is an established character who speaks gives the story a bit more propulsion than a lot of other Souls-inspired games. The contrast between these dark environments that look like they could be ripped out of any From Software game and the cute bug enemies is a really effective one, and I think this tonal balance is why the game is so interesting from a story perspective. Everything is treated very seriously, but the game also isn't afraid to bring in the levity. And yeah, the game looks phenomenal. The jump between Hollow Knight and this, honestly, it feels like a generational leap in terms of art. Seriously, look at the two games side by side. It's not like New Super Mario Bros. Wii versus U. We're talking Super Mario Bros. 2 Super Mario Bros. World. I think all these visually rich environments also helps keep me invested. I want to see what the next area looks like, even though it will probably be incredibly dank. I think the key in designing a From Software-esque level is just put a bunch of strange objects together. Fill a level with thousands of bells, or candelabras, or steering wheels, or just whatever. Now, the game allegedly took 7 years to make, so you'd think they maybe cooked up some new take on the genre, but really this game is not fundamentally a big shakeup of the Metroidvania formula. It doesn't do anything particularly daring in terms of new mechanics, and it's not really a big deviation from the first game either. A lot of your abilities are your bread and butter Metroidvania-esque abilities. You get a wall jump, you learn to dash, and yes, there is a double jump. It's not like you gain powers that turn the level upside down or turn into water or whatever. It is a lot of typical mobility power-ups. I'm thinking back to last year's Animal Well, another Metroidvania that got a lot of attention. That game really sets itself apart by being more focused on puzzles than combat. You also get a lot of unique items in that game, like a slinky. I don't think Hornet is going to get a slinky. So what is it about Silksong that makes it good when it really is just another Metroidvania, and not one with particularly a brand new gimmick? It really is one of those games that just completely nails the fundamentals and polishes what you can do to a perfect sheen. Movement feels like you want it to feel. The combat, while simplistic on the surface, is quick and rewards aggression. Your core attacks are actually fairly limited, but having an aerial attack and the game rewarding you for staying in the air with the pogo bouncing mechanic, that really makes it feel like you're getting the upper hand on the enemy when you're pulling off bouncing on them over and over again. The tools, which are like sub-weapons, can also be a legit game changer for some fights. Earlier this year, I played Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, another Metroidvania, and that had an incredibly rich combat system. Definitely the deepest combat system I've ever seen in any Metroidvania, but also a bit too overwhelming at times. Oh, I messed up my combo, or I forgot how to slam the enemy to the ground because I didn't know I had to press XXY instead of XYY. I would say The Lost Crown probably has better combat from an objective point of view, but Silksong's combat is just so straightforward that it really is all about execution and spacing, which makes each battle feel like a real duel and not like a dial-a combo Mortal Kombat fight. The game is also very propulsive, which is a word I've already used, in that it balances the open nature aspect of the game with its linearity, so it doesn't feel like you're just completely lost or clueless about what to do or where to go. Act 1 in particular is pretty linear, so it does a great job in pushing players to new environments without confusing them. I rarely felt like I came across a dead end or absolutely needed some ability in order to progress. Yeah, rooms will have sections where you need some ability in order to explore it fully, but the game excels at moving you along the main story points without making you feel like you're missing something. I mean, what's the worst feeling in a Metroidvania? Being completely lost and the only way to progress is to find some pixel on a map that is secretly a hidden passage. Yes, you will get lost in Silksong, but I will say the game is really good at telegraphing where you need to go, or at least introducing you to optional areas to explore and buff your character before you tackle the next main story task. And the scope of the game is truly absurd for the genre. Most Metroidvanias are fairly short. Many don't even scrape 10 hours. But I put double that into Silksong, and some people have said in order to 100% it, you're going to be spending maybe 50 to 60 hours. I think for the genre, it can be very easy to be burned out of the game, especially after backtracking through the same areas over and over again. But each of Silksong's regions offers some unique challenge that makes them not feel repetitive. Some of them are centered around tough platformer challenges, others are more combat-oriented, and many sections often introduce some mechanic that you won't see elsewhere. Each little section also has interesting obstacles to overcome and let you utilize Hornet's moveset in a really fun way that you really haven't got to use in other areas. Now, since this is really just a sequel to Hollow Knight, it still has a lot of issues from the first game. Maybe issues is a bit too subjective, but at least things I don't like. For one, the bad map system is back. You get the map piece by piece. First you get the map, then you get the compass, then you get the thing that lets you see the vendors on the map, then the thing that lets you see the rest areas on the map. It does take several hours before you build a usable map. And I just don't get this mechanic. It's not fun. And early on in the game, you constantly have to buy maps for each region, which leads to one of my biggest frustrations with the game, the economy. The game is incredibly stingy with money, as you can only get money by fighting specific enemies or finding a few spare rosary beads, which is the currency. And by the time you have, say, 100 of these beads, you're probably blowing it all on a map, or using it to unlock a fast travel point. I suppose the game is designed to make the player choose between spending money to improve your character and spending money to improve the map. But I would say improving the map is a necessity, while improving your character is more fun. I do think the majority of the money I spent so far in the game has been map related, which isn't really what I want from this type of game. Samus just sticks her arm in the hole and then you get the map. That's what I want. Now, the main talking point in a lot of circles is this. Is Silksong too hard? I mean, it is incredibly hard. I do think it's a little easier than Hollow Knight, but maybe it's just me not knowing how that game worked while Silksong clicked faster. But you will die. A lot. You're not beating any boss in one try, and I typically dislike hard games, but Silksong, again, has something intangible about it that makes me keep playing. I think that while you will face a boss that creams you in 3 seconds, it doesn't feel insurmountable. It doesn't feel like you're missing some ability or secret item that will make the boss a cakewalk. It really is about reading the patterns and then executing your attack. And a lot of the bosses are not hard on paper. They have incredibly telegraphed attacks, but if you slip up just once, that could be the end of you. Boss battles demand you stay locked in the entire time. But one reason why I think they are fairly enjoyable is the healing mechanic that rewards aggressive gameplay. You have a silk meter that you can pop to heal up, and then you build this up by attacking. So technically you do go into a boss battle with infinite heals as long as you are landing hits. And I think this push and pull between attacking the boss and building up the healing meter, then knowing when to use it, that really helps establish an exciting tempo to a battle. It's not like Sekiro where, oops, I ate all my candy and drank all my potions, so I gotta be perfect for the rest of the battle. You can change your fortune at any moment. And a lot of people are critical of the runbacks to the boss, and yeah, why is this in the game? Let me just try again, or have an optional warp to the bench where I can change my loadout if I really need to. Maybe some people do like the mechanic though, but I just don't know who they are. But I think we can all agree on that every flying enemy in the game should be imprisoned for their crimes. The game is not perfect, and any criticism you lob at it, probably very valid, and I agree with a lot of them. But for whatever reason, I can't stop playing. Again, I kind of don't know why. Why am I spending 30 minutes on this boss instead of instantly dropping the game forever and then going back to Mario Kart? Is it how the character controls? Is it the evocative setting? Did I suddenly become good at video games? I just think the game hyper-focuses on these key elements of the genre and makes these aspects really fun to engage with. It doesn't reinvent the wheel, but instead gives you the shiniest wheel you've ever seen. Also, maybe a spare tire as well, since the game is absolutely massive in scope. So Silksong, honestly, I wasn't excited for it. I kind of bought it just out of curiosity, but it is one of the better games I've played this year. I would certainly recommend it to hardcore Metroidvania fans, but if you just want a casual experience, maybe stay away. I want to say it's about 100 times harder than Metroid Dread, so keep that in mind. Also, I'm not done talking about Donkey Kong Bananza on the podcast, as Nintendo shadow dropped brand new paid DLC for the game, DK Island plus Emerald Rush. Yes, we are getting more DK before any new Mario Kart content. But I'm sorry, you can't complain about there not being enough to do in Mario Kart unless you have hit all 394 P-switches. That's the rule. Definitely one of the more surprising announcements from the Direct, which I'll get into in the news section. And DKB is by far my game of the year, so more of it, sign me up. And I did sign up via paying 1,980 yen or however much it was, about $20. The DLC consists of a new area, DK's home of Donkey Kong Island, and a new mode called Emerald Rush, which is a roguelike mode where you smash ore and do mini missions to gain new skills. So yes, this is the second time Nintendo has sold us a roguelike mode as DLC, the first being the excellent Side Order DLC for Splatoon 3. So is this the Side Order of Donkey Kong? Maybe on paper, but not so much in execution. First, the new DK Island map, amazing. A complete home run. It is so well designed in how you move around the island, the different unique sections like the shipwreck, DK Mountain, a bongo drum island that you can bounce on, a jungle temple with a minecart. Just every single aspect of the island is perfect. You can go into Donkey Kong's home, Cranky, Diddy, and Dixie are also here, and you can also summon to different parts of the island to take a picture with them. If you love taking pictures in the game, DK Island gives you a ton of great photo ops. There's also a giant banana fractone for you fractone heads out there. But even though it looks great and is very well designed, it's not a typical Bananza level. There's no fossils, there's no bananas, there's no objectives or missions here. It really is just a hub world of sorts. But there is a unique unlockable, the statues. These are kind of crystally looking statues of models from the game that you buy with the Banandium chips, the things that you probably never think about. The statues look great and they are huge, so they are really fun to throw around and smash things with. And they are automatically placed in specific thematically appropriate sections of the island. Even if you move them, you can reset them by talking to squawks. So just more great fodder for photo ops and a really cool thing to spin your chips on. The main gameplay portion of the DLC is a roguelike mode called Emerald Rush, and it is fine, I guess. I think it is kind of fun to play a few times, but herein lies the issue with the DLC. I think for most people, including myself, playing through it 2 or 3 times is enough. It's not like Side Order that is genuinely challenging and rewards you with experimenting with builds. While there are sort of builds here in that you do pick 1 of 3 power-ups like in every roguelike ever, I feel like it has zero impact on the actual gameplay. The skills are just regaining your Bananza powers like the Ostrich's Flight Time or the speed in which you can charge up a punch as Kong Bananza. At least on the base difficulty, you never really have to think about how you build up DK. Eventually, I was just selecting power-ups randomly since a typical run you unlock dozens of power-ups, so who cares about being picky about 1? The actual going through and smashing stuff, of course, is pretty fun. You need to collect X amount of ore, but there are also many missions here like fighting enemies or silly things like high-fiving Cranky Kong. But again, the base difficulty is so easy that it never feels like you really need to think. Maybe this is my fault though, since it does have difficulty levels, so maybe just at the highest one, it gets incredibly tough and forces you to prioritize your build and decide on how to tackle missions. But again, I think most people are just want to play it for a few rounds and then fall off. The amount of content, it's there. There are quite a few things to unlock, like a new costume for DK and Pauline, and there are multiple difficulty levels, and I even heard there's a secret boss battle. Plus, Emerald Rush expands to many levels in the game, and not just DK Island. So if you want to 100% Emerald Rush, there's hours of gameplay here. But I'm not going to do that, and I think the incentive to do so is kind of low. A lot of people are comparing this to the free update for Super Mario Odyssey, which was Luigi's Balloon World. And honestly, I like Balloon World much more. It genuinely challenged your platforming abilities, and I hope there would be some update like that to DKB that really let me experiment and take advantages of DK's incredible moveset. I guess there is that kind of in this roguelike mode since it emphasizes speed and traversal, but that's not the main focus, and I don't feel as challenged as I did in Balloon World. And yes, the price, $20. Honestly, pretty steep for what this is. Last episode I talked about Star-Crossed World, another piece of $20 DLC. Comparatively to the main game, I feel like Star-Crossed World offered 1/3 the amount of content the base game of Forgotten Land did. If $20 is about 28% of $70, I don't think it offers 28% the amount of content as the base game. Now this may seem like a very silly calculation, but the dollar-to-hour ratio for me isn't there. I'm not saying it should have been a free update, since of course people spent a lot of time and effort into making this, so I understand wanting to sell it. But if it was a free update, everyone would be like, wow, what a wild thing to add to the game for free. And it would be seen much more positively. DK is not Mario. They need to make DKB look as appealing as possible. And this out-of-nowhere free update to the game would have really helped its word of mouth even more. Even at $10, that's a better price point, and it does get the full package of the game up to $80, something Nintendo really likes to do these days. Donkey Kong Bananza is a 10 out of 10 game for me, my current game of the year that is not likely to be dethroned, so kind of spoilers for our Game of the Year episode. But this DLC, while not bad, it feels like an easy skip. I can maybe see some people getting really deep into Emerald Rush, and I'm interested to see how they play this mode. But for me, I played around on DK Island for about an hour or so, I played a few rounds of Emerald Rush, and I think I'm done. And I have to imagine many others will have the same experience. So think wisely about if this is worth $20, or what else you could spend $20 on. Alright, that's it for the games, so let's check out the news. The big Tokyo news is that Tokyo Game Show is coming up pretty soon. Will I go? Maybe, but I will wrangle up a guest to talk about it next episode, so don't worry. There will be TGS coverage somehow, some way. But really, the only thing I want to talk about is the Nintendo Direct, the first big Direct after the Switch 2's launch. Over an hour of content, although 20 minutes of it was secretly a Mario Direct, so let's look at that first. There's a smattering of Mario games coming to Switch 2 soon. There's Mario Galaxy Collection, so the long-awaited Mario Galaxy 2 is finally on Switch. These versions seem far more upgraded than their 3D All-Stars brethren. There's a new assist mode, new font and UI, and more pages of Rosalina's storybook, which they are also going to sell a real-life version of. Koizumi has finally defeated Miyamoto. The collection hits October 2nd at a low price of, $70? And Galaxy 2 by itself is $40? I mean, they put some work into it. It's not like a ROM dump, but $40 for Galaxy 2 is a tough sell. For me, at least. I mean, technically, if you've never played the Galaxy games and go through both of them, that's 80 hours of content? That's plenty of game for the price. But if you're like me, who has played both Galaxy games to completion, maybe multiple times, $40 for just one of them is pretty steep. At $20, yeah, I pick it up and play around with it for a few hours, and then maybe come back to it every now and then. But $40 is not an impulse buy for me, especially since 2025 is already completely loaded with interesting new games. But if you've never played the Galaxy games, yeah, you should play them. And like with the DK DLC, a major theme of the Direct has been, wow, that's way more expensive than I thought it would be. Does Nintendo just know the highest price point people will pay? Is software expensive to subsidize hardware sales hit by tariffs? Nintendo is certainly making some bold decisions when it comes to pricing, but I do have to wonder how close are we to the breaking point for a lot of consumers? Or maybe Nintendo is specifically marketing some things purely to hardcores and they know they'll pay it. I've said this before, but I can definitely see a quarterly report that says, yeah, we're selling fewer games and consoles than before, but we're actually more profitable than ever. Other big Mario announcements, Mario Tennis is back with Mario Tennis Fever. The gimmick here is that your rackets have special powers. I thought Aces was great, but it was very light on content, so the Direct did highlight some of the modes like a challenge tower, a sillier party mode, and a story mode with the debut of baby Waluigi. It kind of feels like Aces just came out, but oh wait, that was 2018. So by the time Fever hits, it will have been 8 years. I can't lie though, I want Mario Baseball more. It's the perfect time to bring that game back. Put Shohei Ohtani in the game as a special guest character. I guarantee you this sells double Mario Tennis. And finally, Yoshi is back with Yoshi and the Mysterious Book. After DK and Kirby got big new 3D entries, people wondered, does Nintendo have an interesting take on the next Yoshi game? And the answer is, not really. We've moved away from the craft aesthetic, and it's more of an illustrated look, not too distant from Mario Wonder, but more watercolor-ish. Listen, it is pretty clear that Yoshi has been regulated to baby's first platformer. This is for people who find Mario just too hard. And that's absolutely fine. We don't really see Yoshi fighting anyone though, and a Yoshi game that is purely about exploration and puzzle solving with almost no enemies would actually be kind of an interesting idea. I would rather have that big swing versus just another platformer like Crafted World. We also saw the Switch 2 edition of Mario Wonder with the new expansion called Meetup in Bellabelle Park. This purely seems like a multiplayer mode, but at the end it did look like they teased some single-player content, so I'm curious about how much of that we're getting. I don't really care about the multiplayer stuff, but I would love more levels. Give me a Star-Crossed World level expansion for Wonder and I would absolutely check it out. Oh, and the big announcement, the Super Mario Galaxy movie. An interesting path for film number 2. We don't have any Rosalina casting, but we know she's around there somewhere. I predict Scarlett Johansson, let's go with that. I do wonder if Bowser is just going to be the villain again. I did predict that in movie 2 they would introduce Wario and Waluigi, and then we would maybe get a team up with Bowser, but I think they are just saving that for movie 3. I think there is a bit more juice in Bowser being the villain again, and maybe you also introduce Bowser Jr. here. Will Chris Pratt play Cosmic Mario though? That's the real villain of the Galaxy series. So after the Mario stuff, we have the real Direct, which was about 40 minutes. So all the hype about this being the biggest Direct ever, I mean, it kind of was, but it was also 2 Directs smashed together. Let's jump in with the biggest announcement, Fire Emblem Fortune's Weave, a new entry in the classic strategy RPG series. Intelligent Systems hasn't released a game in 2025, and they typically average a release a year, so I was expecting them to show up here in a big way. And I think the most surprising thing about the reveal is that the game is connected to 3 houses in some way. You see Adult Solstice as the Stinger at the end, and we also see the relic weapons appear in the trailer as well. Going back to 3 houses is a pretty surprising direction for the series. We have had direct follow-ups to the series before, and some references to past games like Marth being mentioned in Awakening, but I don't think they've ever circled back like this in a big way before. I think Engage has quickly become the black sheep of the series, so is Intelligent Systems backpedaling and trying to hook the Three Houses folks that skipped Engage, which was actually quite a lot of people. I mean, I love Three Houses, and it was my game of the year for 2019, and I still think it is one of the best Switch games, but I wasn't really hankering to return to that world. I do think the lore is really interesting, but the game wrapped up in a pretty satisfying way. I definitely want to hear the reasoning for returning to this branch in the Fire Emblem tree. Oh, and is this a prequel? The setting on the fact that there's an adult Sosis makes people wonder that, and a Three Houses prequel does avoid making people mad by selecting a canonized ending. It has a 2026 date, so we will see their angle on the game pretty soon. Okay, let's stick with the other first-party announcements. We got some dates. Hyrule Warriors is November 6th, so doubling up with Kirby that month, and Metroid Prime 4 is December 4th. Listen, I'm not a Warriors guy, and there's nothing they can show to make me one, but a playable Korok is pretty cool. But what's cooler than that? A motorcycle, and now Samus has one for some reason. That was a big hook for the new Prime 4 trailer, as it shows Samus riding a bike across the desert terrain and fighting enemies in third person. Not exactly the direction I expected here. The level kind of reminded me of Space Harrier a bit. Did anybody else get Space Harrier vibes? Was it just me? Having a large open area you traverse is kind of the antithesis of a Metroidvania, so I wonder if all the levels are connected here via the desert, or maybe there are several open spaces like this in the game, and I'm really curious about what they do with this. Can I just whip out my motorcycle at any time? Will I be running over Silux? Is that how he meets his ultimate fate? I think I mentioned this before on the podcast, but I'm not really a Prime guy. Prime 1, good game, but I always preferred the 2D Metroid games, and I never had much interest in the other Prime sequels. Even now, Prime 4 is not lighting a fire inside of me, but it does come out at a pretty good time. I don't think December is too crowded right now, so it has some space to breathe. Other first-party stuff, DK DLC, I already talked about it. ZA is getting Mega Dimension DLC with Mega Raichu X and Y. My Mega Pikachu prediction is not looking too hot, but Legends Arceus never got DLC, so I wonder what the DLC for this type of game could look like. I feel like new Megas is not as exciting as new Pokemon since it is a temporary form, so I wonder what else they could lean into. Oh, and we also saw the Mega forms of the Kalos starters, but these apparently are locked to post-game online battles. Why do they make us gotta go through all these hoops? I just want Mega Greninja. Is that too much? We saw a bit more of Tomodachi Life Living the Dream, mostly just stuff about the character creation, but the game looks like what people want. And another horrifying confession, I've never played any Tomodachi Life game. Yes, it is one of my most shameful gaps in Nintendo's gamography, but I will be checking out this new title, and I think it's going to be much bigger than a lot of people assume. I was on the Tomodachi Life subreddit, and it's funny to see people get confused about, can I play this on Switch 1? Can I play this on Switch Lite? It really does appeal to people who have maybe played one game every 5 years. I'm sure a lot of people are going from Animal Crossing to this. And like Tomodachi Life, another game with a big casual appeal is Pokemon Pokopia, which is sort of a Pokemon farming game, or maybe closer to Dragon Quest Builders, where you build out your own Pokemon habitat and town. It is being co-developed by Koei Tecmo, which also worked on Dragon Quest Builders, so maybe there's more of a connection there than a lot of people assume. You play as a Ditto mimicking a human, an idea I personally dislike. Yes, we've seen it in the anime, we've seen it in the movies, but to bring it to the games is a little frightening. It opens up a can of worms I don't want opened. But if they do this game right, it could legit be massive. It could be in the conversation for highest selling Pokemon spin-off if it's good and gets on enough people's radars. And this also comes out in 2026. And yeah, Koei Tecmo, they're making this, they're making Hyrule Warriors. We also saw Dynasty Warriors Origins and a remake of Fatal Frame 2, so they are very busy over there in Yokohama. And maybe the craziest first-party announcement, perhaps ever, Virtual Boy is coming to NSO. Now, this is actually something a lot of hardcore Nintendo fans have wanted for quite a while, myself included, but I don't think any of us expected them to just bring it back like this. Nintendo is selling a plastic shell of the Virtual Boy with the lenses inside that you insert your Switch into, and then that mimics the 3D of the original hardware. There's also a Labo cardboard version as well. Now, they said you need this in order to play, so it seems like there is no just 2D option to play the Virtual Boy games on your TV, which is what I think everyone wanted. I think even the most hardcore Virtual Boy advocates just wanted to play the games more than they wanted the authentic 1995 experience. I am okay with playing Mario Clash on my TV. I don't need to be hunched over. But will I get this $100 plastic shell? Of course. But I imagine it's going to sell out very quickly. Yes, in 2026, something with the Virtual Boy name will be sold out, so get ready for this reality. Going back to Nintendo gaps, I've only played Mario Tennis and Bomberman on real Virtual Boy hardware, so there's quite a lot of titles that I haven't touched yet. And I mean, people do say, hey, a lot of Virtual Boy games are actually quite good beyond the blinding 3D. So definitely expect a lot of Virtual Boy coverage on the podcast next year. Third-party games, if we're going by what will sell the most, I think I gotta give it to Suika Game Planet. Instead of a big rectangle, it's now a circle with kind of Mario Galaxy-esque gravity. Sold. That's all you need to say. We also got a Hades 2 date, and that's September 25th, so in just a few days. I was a huge fan of the first game, so I'm there day one for this new one. I don't know, guys. I don't think I'm going to beat Silksong before this comes out. I'll try. I'll do my best. We also got a date for Final Fantasy VII Intergrade, which hits late January. Probably a good time for that game to come out since 2025 is completely loaded. And Final Fantasy VII looks really good visually. The biggest third-party headline, though, was that Resident Evil Requiem is coming day and date to Switch 2 alongside 7 and 8. Now, this was rumored, but I assumed this was more of a I hope this happens type of rumor. But we are getting a brand new numerical Resident Evil day one on Nintendo hardware for the first time since Resident Evil 4 on the GameCube. Does it look as good as the PS5 version? No. But does it look incredibly impressive? I'd say so. The frame rate is going to be what matters though, so hopefully Capcom doesn't let us down on that end. But this is basically what I want to see. Third-party games that take advantage of the Switch 2's unique features like DLSS to reach a closer parity to other consoles. Oh, and I didn't mention this in the games, but I have been playing Star Wars Outlaws on Switch 2. And it is kind of the new benchmark for a third-party title on the hardware, even surpassing Cyberpunk. It runs at a consistent 30 frames per second, it has high resolution in both the docked and handheld mode, and the lighting looks incredible thanks to ray tracing. I watched the Digital Foundry video about how it's pulling all this off, and the porting developer, Redlinks, did a fantastic job in bringing the game to Switch 2 without compromising the experience. So, can Redlinks work on every port? Sadly, they are owned by Ubisoft, so they can't just work on everything under the sun, but I am excited about a possible Assassin's Creed Shadows port now. What's funny is that early vids of Outlaws were pretty rough, and Ubisoft didn't send out any preview copies, so everyone assumed it was just going to be a technical disaster, and it took leaked copies for people to realize that, oh, this game looks way better than I imagined. But even if you're not interested in Outlaws, it is a great showpiece for the Switch 2, and it gives me a lot of confidence regarding future ports, including Resident Evil Requiem. Going back to third-party games, Danganronpa 2x2 was announced. Listen, I don't know anything about this series, but people were extremely excited. I should probably do an episode about this series in the future, though. It definitely has a lot of Japan-only entries. We saw more of Monster Hunter Stories 3, a game I care more about than Resident Evil. And oh, another big third-party game, looping back to Square, Dragon Quest VII Reimagined, is coming out in February. This is yet another remake of Dragon Quest VII. We had one on the 3DS, and now it's back. Here's a fun fact. Dragon Quest VII on the PS1, 2000. 3DS version in Japan, 2013. 13 years. And between the 3DS game and the Switch 2 version, 13 years. Time is scary. This seems to have even more changes than the 3DS game, with a more streamlined story, and you can also equip 2 vocations at the same time. Honestly, I never played DQ7, so I can't give a definitive statement on it. I would say the game is fairly infamous for its extreme length and poor pacing. So it is funny that Square is back and saying, listen, we're going to try to fix it again. I don't know, I think I'll stick with 1 and 2 HD 2D for now. But does this kick off the reimagined trilogy of remakes? Is 8 and 9 after this? In terms of remakes, the ones I want most from Dragon Quest are 5 and 9. And we seem a little far off from both of them, so I'll report back on my thoughts on those games in 2035. Anything else? Oh, there are 7 new amiibos, and the Kirby ones are like $50. I think I might be tapped out of the amiibo world. They are just too expensive to be an impulse buy these days. Yes, the quality is much better, and the new amiibos are quite large, but I'd rather use that money for games. I do wonder what's the next amiibo I will buy. I'm sure something eventually will hook me. Maybe if they finally loop back and give us the Echoes of Wisdom amiibos for Zelda and Ganon, then I might bite. But it was a pretty crazy direct, parentheses good. I've seen some people complain about where's 3D Mario, where's Smash, where's Animal Crossing, and yeah, those games are coming, so don't worry. But I am curious about the sales momentum of Switch 2 without Nintendo dangling a future 10 million plus seller in front of us. I mean, what will be the highest selling game shown off in the Direct? It might ironically be the Galaxy Collection. 3D All-Star sold more than 10 million copies before they yanked that off shelves. But in terms of new games, Fire Emblem, which was the big closer, is realistically going to sell about, maybe 3 million copies? Same with Mario Tennis and Yoshi. Will Switch 2 still fly off shelves without announcing these major tentpoles of the Switch 1's life, like 3D Mario, 3D Zelda, Gen 10 Pokemon, and so on? Mario Kart is already out there, so maybe that will be enough until next holiday. But Nintendo has an absurd 9, count 'em, 9 games announced that are expected to hit in 2026. Tomodachi Life, Pokopia, Fire Emblem, Mario Tennis, Yoshi, Pokemon Champions, Rhythm Heaven, Splatoon Raiders, which doesn't have a date, but it will probably be 2026, and Mario Wonder with a DLC. If they release a game of the month, well, we've got most of the year covered already. It's hard to imagine that Nintendo has 6 other big first-party releases also hitting next year, but maybe they do. Even if Switch 2 doesn't have those big 20 million plus sellers yet, Nintendo is still putting out a ton of games and there's plenty to play. And this year alone, there's like a dozen games I want. Hades 2 comes out next week, and then Final Fantasy Tactics is after that. I'm still playing Silksong and Star Wars, and sometimes UFO 50, and they're saying Stray Children is coming out this year. So expect a lot of new releases to be covered on the podcast for the rest of the year. But I will try to get that Chibi Robo episode out there one day, don't worry. Okay, let's wrap it up. Thanks as always for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on your favorite app. Leave a 5-star review as well, it really helps. This podcast is also available on YouTube, so like and subscribe there as well. I'm on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, Instagram. Just search for Tokyo Game Life or find the links in the podcast description. If you like the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends on social media. The next episode will be on October 5th. See you next time. Matane.